Okay, so why don't we get started? Everyone can see my screen, I'm assuming. Yeah, okay. I just want to put something in the chat here right now. If you wanna get these slides and you want to ask some questions, maybe you didn't get a chance to ask. Um, Go to this link. It's a Google form. You can sign up, shoot in your email. I won't spam you if you don't want me to, but I will send you the slides if you so desire. So just that link in the chat there, bit.ly/sbdc-sales, and we'll get you the slides from this presentation. So let's get started. Today we're going to be talking about, and if you want to ask a question, feel free to just jump in at any time. You could also just like put a message in the chat. I'm fine with that too. I might not necessarily see the chat at all times. I'm like looking at like 6 different windows here, but we're going to do our best, and somebody will nudge me if I miss it. But yeah, just feel free to jump in, unmute your mic. We're going to have fun. We're gonna have a little bit of an interactive exercise today because we don't have 50 people, which is nice. We're gonna, so if you have pen and paper, that'd be great. I realize we're all at computers too, so if you want to open up a separate window at some point to use like a Word document or something, and for some typing, that's totally cool too. All right, so let's get going on this. So understanding data-driven sales. This is not, first, let me give you a disclaimer. I'm not a statistician, okay? So, we're not talking about analyzing data from the standpoint of, okay, scientific analysis. We want to have those tight confidence intervals and, be able to say, with less than 5% doubt that we can figure this out. I'm not a statistician. This is not a data modeling exercise. This is a workshop to understand what can we look at when we do sales, and how can we figure out why things are working and why things aren't working. So it's just going to come from that lens. And there's going to be stuff in here that you can honestly apply to product management as well, which is, if you're doing if you're doing software, or anything like that, that can be really useful. And just out of curiosity, everybody who's in here, who's who's in here as a sales rep or a sales manager? Like who's actively, like, that's their job, like your job title has like sales development or sales rep or account management or something like that. You're employed by somebody that's not you. You're not in your own business. Is there anyone?
That'd be me,
Or
Pat.
yours? That'd be who?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. Who was it that said that?
This is Evan.
Okay, Evan. Yes. Okay, yeah, over at Spry Point. That makes sense. Okay, I'm just rejigging my interface here so that I can see when people pipe up like that. Okay, so anyone else? You're the Jane of all trades. So yes, I do sales. Mathieu Galland. This is my previous job. What do you do? What do you do now, Mathieu? Okay, so who here is just, they're self-employed, or you're doing your own business, you're an entrepreneur, and you're looking to learn some stuff about, CRM and sales today? We got Brody, Descent, Redden, okay, Sarah. Okay, so we got a lot of business owners, we got a lot of entrepreneurs. We're gonna have some good stuff for both of you. And we'll get going. I honestly wanted to, if you've ever done sales, been a sales rep, or you've used CRM and had interactions with this kind of software, like I was kind of thinking today, I kind of wanted to title the workshop like "How Not to Waste Time and Money While Using CRM," because you've been in the sales world. Yeah, it's kind of a love-hate relationship because it can be helpful, but it can also just feel like a gigantic waste of time. So hopefully today we're going to talk about how it's not a gigantic waste of time, or how it can be used as such. So what to expect today? I pretty much just told you, but is there anything that anyone wants to pipe up about, that we might be able to expect that you would want me to cover? Anything that's interesting to folks here? Like a specific, you just jump in, throw it in the chat, unmute your microphone, something specific you'd want to get out of today.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about some insights into kind of, I guess, CRM and that sort of dynamic remarketing sort of angle.
I can't really hear you, Red. Could you speak up?
Yes, sir. I was hoping today if you could look into, I guess, some, can you hear me at all?
Yep.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, I was hoping if you can give some insights into kind of, I guess, CRM in general, in the marketing sort of world, and some stuff on kind of dynamic remarketing, the best time to do that, the best sort of channel for that as well.
Okay, dynamic remarketing, is that what you said? Okay, sounds good. So when you say dynamic remarketing, what does that mean to you?
To me, I'd say primary is like the Google Ads platform and that sort of thing, as far as like sales funnels and where those leads can go and when the best time to retarget ads would be, in your opinion.
Okay, I'm going to give you a disclaimer. I'm not a digital marketer, so I might not be able to say too much about that. However, I think Brody Trainer would be able to offer a lot of value on that. So I'm going to suggest that, if I don't cover what you're looking for in terms of marketing and retargeting and, using inbound low touch tools like Google Ads and stuff like that, that you connect with Brody afterwards or at some point, assuming that Brody, I'm sure Brody loves to talk about that stuff, so I'm just going to assume that he's okay with that. And then Mathieu Gallon says one-time sales versus repeat sales. Okay, absolutely. We're definitely going to be going through that today. Okay, so why should you care about CRM? One of the biggest problems that new sales reps face. Could you talk about how, Javin says, could you talk about how to use CRM differently for short versus long sales cycles? Yes, we're going to cover sales cycles. I'm going to write that down as a point. Okay. Absolutely. Sales cycles length is, to me, very important. Okay. So why you should care about CRM? One of the biggest reasons that I got into CRM is I just had way too much stuff to track. So, when I was doing, 20, 30, 40 leads, people that I wanted to get in touch with, people that I wanted to, talk to about my software, about my product at the time, a spreadsheet wasn't so bad. That was pretty easily, and it quickly morphed into like 100 to 300 people, and multiple interactions. So at that point, I knew the spreadsheet was getting impossible to track. It was really messy, and I'm pretty good at spreadsheets. But I can't track 300 people with multiple interactions inside of a spreadsheet. So what I ended up doing was adopting CRM. One of the biggest pieces is someone trying to speak up? No? Okay. So yeah, one of the biggest things would be not letting conversations and follow-up tasks slip through the cracks. Have you ever promised something to somebody and then you lost out on that potential lead or that prospect or deal because you promised to follow up with them and you forgot, or you knew that you should follow up with them but you forgot? That's a big part of CRM for me personally in my business. I got a million things going on in my brain at one time. I'm terrible at remembering things. I rely very much on having a written record. Financial forecasting is also pretty big. So if you're a small business, this is pretty key because you can use CRM if a lot of your revenue is coming from sales, you can use CRM to review and predict what you've won and lost in terms of revenue, and also try to get an idea of where you as a rep, let's say, or as a business owner and your business can be headed in the next couple of months. It's a great tool for financial forecasting and doing financial predictions if you're already into sales and you're already, you're not, if you're pre-revenue, it's going to be hard to use it for that. You need to get like a quarter or two kind of in, to be able to see some trends. But, as a coach, one of the things that, people frequently ask me about is, how do I do financial forecasts? How do I know? Okay, so somebody that has asked me to put a business plan together, and they want to know what I'm predicting for the next 12 months, but I haven't sold anything yet, and I'm using this business plan to apply for a grant or something like that. Yeah, that's hard. Like it's challenging. Angela McDonald would be a great person to talk to about that. She's an in-house specialist at Startup Zone. Okay, so why else should we care? Keeping your teammates in the loop. This is a big one for me in the startup that I'm working in right now. If you're working in a team of a small team, like a founding team, or even if you're just kind of going through with a team of sales reps, or if it's you and your boss and you're the sales rep, or you're the boss and you have a sales rep, staying on the same page with things is tough, because a lot of the stuff that we do in sales is just going to be up in our heads, right? And the unfortunate part about that is, if you need somebody else to know things, or somebody else needs to know about how things are going with certain reps, then just keeping it all up in your head, nobody's a mind reader, so that's not going to go great. So we want to keep a record. The other thing too is just keeping your sales manager happy. So who's the rep that was in here? It was Evan, I believe. Is Evan still here? Yeah, Evan. So I assume Evan has a sales manager, and I won't ask him to crap on a sales manager by any means, but if you have a sales manager, they can be, and I've been one, they can be a little bit frustrating in the sense that they're on your back to keep the CRM updated, keep the pipeline updated. And if you're not okay with that, you better be phenomenal at bringing in deals, because otherwise, depending on where you work, you might get promoted to customer. So this is a big part of sales too. Sales is an emotional roller coaster, especially in your first couple of years. So staying grounded in reality. If we track the right data, then what we can do is we can kind of get out of our emotional mind and like what we might be thinking about, let's say, sales, and if we think things are going great and we're doing a great job and we're landing deals, or maybe we just feel like a bag of crap, in the sense that we just lost 2 or 3 leads and you feel like everything's just going terribly. So having accurate data in the sales CRM keep you grounded in reality, and just push off that existential dread and despair just another by another few days, so you can get some sales. So it's, there we go. And for sales managers, this is why your sales manager cares about CRM. And I realize I put a creepy, Sting meme in here. But your sales manager is going to be monitoring stuff, right? And sales is ultimately about numbers. This is how a sales manager checks in on that. So if you are a sales manager, or you have somebody that will be a sales rep under you, it's good. You don't want to micromanage. Like, please don't do that. If you're a sales rep, you hate being micromanaged. But the sales manager is going to want to diagnose problems and coach sales reps. Ultimately, their source for that is going to be data. And then sales reps, if you're in a bigger enterprise like Evan, I imagine you'd have to face this. A sales manager is going to report numbers from a sales team up the chain for company goals. So why do VPs of sales, vice president of sales, and executives like CSOs, CEOs, why do they care about CRM? For the most part, they don't. They just care about the data that's coming in and whether or not things are getting done. However, there needs to be a source for that data. So it helps with forecasting and setting quotas. If you are, a VP of sales, or your CSO, or a chief sales officer rather, or CEO, and you're doing sales, you're going to want to set quarterly company goals, right? And part of that, if revenue from sales is a significant portion of that, then you're definitely going to need this data, because you want to set realistic goals, first of all, and you want to have that be accurate, you want to have that be attainable. It also serves as a corporate memory, and this is a really interesting point, especially if you are considering, growing your business to a point where you may want to sell it someday, or you may want to have it acquired. You should care about this even if you just have like equity or stock options in your company, because it is so much more valuable to have your CRM and relevant data structures be clean and organized. It just increases the bargaining chips, the sales price of any business, to have a strong corporate memory going back 10 years in terms of your data. So I need like 60 seconds to 2 minutes to talk about why Excel or Google Sheets is not a good solution. And, apologies to Pat Farrar in advance. If you get up to, if you're at an early level with sales or establishing businesses, you might be tempted to use a Word document or an Excel sheet to start tracking reach outs and conversations. And if all you're ever going to do is, let's say, 10 to 20 leads, and only going to have a couple of interactions with those people, sure, go for it. If you're, I'm trying to think of a situation where this might be. So like, say you're trying to build partnerships with nonprofits, and you don't have some massive campaign. You just have like 10 to 20 that you're focusing on. Cool, go for it. Use Excel. If you're doing anything more than that, let's start with a CRM. Let's do that early. I will tell you, it is a lot easier to adopt a CRM earlier in the process than it is to move a 40-page Google Doc or a 300-row spreadsheet into that at a later point. So if you want to do that too late, you're going to have a bad time. So last I'll talk about Excel, maybe. So what do we want? We want more sales. We want quality deals. We want a higher lifetime customer value. So what does that mean? It means that while the person is a customer with us, with our business, we want them to pay us more money. So what does that mean in terms of what we give them back? We want to provide them with more value. And so this is Mathieu, this is where I'm going to come back to this point, talking about one-time versus repeat sales. Better customer success, that's also related to that. So I define customer success as, somebody who's using customer success, also called account management, is kind of the old school term for it. Customer success in software, for example, is not the same as customer support, where, okay, people don't know how to use the software, so you call up or send in a ticket or something like that. It's more about sales after the sale. So once you've closed somebody for software, you got them on a 1-year contract. That's great, but you want them to have such a good time in that first year, and get a lot of value from it, that they're going to, at the very least, renew for a second year, and ideally expand their contract with you, to include, more features, which is going to increase the contract value. And ideally, you're going to want to sign them for maybe a 2 or 3 year contract after that first year. So, was anyone here at the sales funnel workshop last week? Brody, okay. Yeah, a couple people. There might be a little bit of overlap there. I wasn't there. I'm going to try and not look at it in terms of a sales funnel. I'm going to look at key behaviors instead. But yeah, we'll get there in a second. So business growth is another thing that we want. Sure, And of course, we want commission. So if you're doing sales, hey Jeffrey, good to see you. If you're doing sales, you absolutely want commission. So is anybody here in sales that works off of commission, partially or fully? Jeffrey, I saw your hand go up. Yeah. All the other sales reps are making tacos for lunch, not tuning in. Okay, if you're in sales, I'm going to assume that commission is part of your job. Evan, do you make commission in your job? Is that part of your compensation?
Salary and commission.
Okay. Who said that?
Evan.
Okay, gotcha. Salary and commission. Yeah, I've never been on straight commission. I know people who have. Like, kudos to you. I've always been on a mixture. Anyways, that's our paycheck. We like to have it. So here's an exercise that we're just going to take 5 minutes to do, and 5 minutes max. But this is designed to get you to start thinking about how we can find meaningful stuff to track in our CRM. That's not a waste of time. Okay. So on a piece of paper, or whatever, in a Word document, that's fine. I want you to write down a starting point. We're going to talk about this in terms of a prospect or a lead, somebody that would pay us money for a product or a service. Okay. What's the starting point with them? Are they on an email list? Are they a referral? What might that look like? Are you in customer success and account management, where your starting point with them is they just closed a deal with your company and you are responsible to keep them happy for the next year so that they'll upgrade? What's your starting point with them? So now I want you to write out what your desired ending point will be. Okay, so starting point, where we want to start with them, where we're going to start with them. And there might be multiple starting points depending on how you do your sales and how you interact with people. Just pick the simplest one for the point of this exercise. You can go and do it offline, again, if you like. Where do we want them to be at the end? Do we want them, are you a sales development representative where it's not your responsibility to close a client, but it's your responsibility to, for example, qualify a lead from the marketing team and pass that on to a sales rep who's going to close it? If so, your ending point might not be a close, or if you're in another role, it could be a closed deal. Or again, if you're in customer success, account management, could be that your ending point is to get them to sign up for a multi-year deal. So starting point, ending point, and I'd like you to just take a minute to list 3 to 5 key behaviors that have to happen between the start and the end. So you can do a few more than 5. That's fine. But and I'm going to give an example in a minute. So if you're having a hard time thinking about it, but I'm just going to give you a minute here to list these out. So what are the major things that have to happen for a person to move from the starting point to the ending point? What are the behaviors on their end? Not so much on our end, because we can more so be in control of that. But what do we have to observe in them? What do they have to do? What has to happen? Does anybody have any questions about this? Anyone a little bit confused? Yeah, Brody, go ahead.
It's not so much a confusion. It's more a question of, so like businesses, let's say sole founders that are doing this kind of exercise. And let's say we want to have that client for long term. Like, let's say we want to have it kind of be a recurring client, what kind of ending point would you have for that kind of client? Would you just have like an ending point for different goals that you have with that client? What would you recommend?
Define long term. How long term
Uh,
is long term for you?
For me, long term is probably multiple years. So let's say I'm talking with a client that we're discussing working together for a year, but long term, I want to have them for 2, possibly 3 years.
I've been able to, okay, so when I started in sales and building a B2B product in SaaS, I never asked people for more than a year at a time. So I'd say, so that was my end goal in the sales process, right? So it'd start off with a point of first contact, right? Contact point. And we end with, my ending point was signature on paper and check in our bank. Cool. That being said, the moment that we closed that customer, we got the signature and the money, that was a new starting point for me. And the ending point was, let's deliver a great experience over the first year and get them to sign up for a couple of years next time. As a result, let's give them a little bit of a break, maybe 5%, 10% to get them to sign up for, 3 years. And if they want to go for the 5-year contract, I'll give them like 15%. As I started to build up more, I'm talking with my hands a lot, and there's somebody that I don't like that talks with their hands a lot south of the border, so I'm gonna stop that. Anyways, you can edit that part out, Rachel. My apologies. In any case, yeah, the just trying to think here. Yeah, so starting point, when you get more social proof, when you feel like you can ask people for like multi-year deals, you want to sign them up for a 3-year contract, that can be your ending point too. You just have to kind of have the foundation to do that. Anybody else have any questions?
What will be your thoughts on that only with shorter term contracts? Say you have a client, you bang out a contract for them, takes you 24 hours of work or something, whatever. That's your start point, that's your end point. Where would you say going from there to keep that kind of maximize that customer lifetime value out of them?
So you're looking for like customer success. So you want to sign them up for another. So you're doing 24 hours of work with them, but then once that's done, you don't want that to be goodbye forever. Just see you soon, kind of a thing, right? Okay, I will get to that in about 15 minutes. Cool.
Good.
Okay, everybody got everything written down? Anybody need like another 30 seconds? Okay, in the interest of time, I'm gonna motor on. If you need me to slow down or if you want to talk more about this offline, my contact info is going to be on the last slide. You can also just fill out the the link in the chat for to get the slides, and I can be in touch with you. There's a portion in there where you can say, hey, you didn't cover X, Y, and Z, and I want to know about that, and I'll just email you and we'll talk. Okay, so meaningful data based on behavior and results. Now what we want to do is we want to examine each behavior, and this is the tricky part. This is a little bit, it's a little bit hard to wrap your head around sometimes at first, and sometimes you just got to sit down and you got to think. Take 20 minutes to an hour and think, okay, if there's a behavior on this list, what can I know about it? What can I observe? Do I have a software or a tool that can know or observe something about the behavior? This is really vague right now, so I'm just gonna get to the example, I think. The other question that we want to ask is it reasonable to track? Is it time efficient? You don't want to become a data manager for a CRM at this point, right? Like you want to close deals. You don't want to waste your time, because if you waste time, you're wasting money. And this is where a lot of the friction comes with regard to CRM, is sales reps say, okay, well, every minute that I'm updating the CRM and working on the pipeline and that kind of stuff, and not just using the paper notes that I use or whatever, however I keep track of it up in my head. That's a minute that I'm not out there talking to customers. That's a minute that I'm not out there delivering world-class service. So I really want to be, I guess, vigilant isn't the right word. I really want to be strict. We need to be strict about this, right? So we really don't want to be tracking meaningless stuff that takes a long time. Also, who are the stakeholders with this data? Is it meaningful to you, to others, to your boss, to your team, to your people that report to you? Finally, a great question is, do you have the right infrastructure to easily track it? Okay. And there's something just in the next slide that I'm going to talk about that's really important in my opinion for this. This is more around what sort of CRM you should be considering. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. This is straight out of my consulting business. And so to give you an idea of what my consulting business is, I'm a sole proprietor, so I'm a solopreneur. I don't have a team of consultants. I don't have a sales team. I have in the past at other businesses, but in this business, it's just me and at SBDC. And this is this is an example of my sales structure. So starting point, referral email. So somebody refers me to a prospect. So somebody introduces me in an email. A lot of the customers that I pick up in my consulting business, it's through word of mouth. So for me, I have focused a lot on delivering world-class service. World-class seems like a big claim. I try to make my customers happy so that they'll evangelize for me and they'll say, hey, I got this guy that I know, we did work with him, maybe you should talk to him. And then they introduce us in an email. I love that. Okay, so let's say the starting point is that referral email prospects in a small software as a service company, so online software. Okay, so small, we'll define that as less than, small SaaS, as less than 10 people. I'm not kind of defining that as like a small business where we'd say it's less than 100. Let's say, 10 or under. So the desired endpoint for me is I want to get a 3-month consulting contract. So I do not do, I very rarely do like 12-month deals, 2-year deals, anything like that. Just because the majority of what I want to do as a consultant, as a coach, will happen between 2 and 6 months. So I want to get into a company. I want to work with that person. I want to build them up, help them build themselves up, and then I want to get out. I don't want somebody relying on my services for longer than 6 to 8 months. Some of you may say that's a crappy business model. However, if I can get referrals out of it, and I often do, then it works for me because I always have more people coming into the pipeline. COVID's an interesting story. We'll talk about that another time. Okay, so what are my key behaviors between being introduced to somebody in that email and then landing a 3-month consulting contract? So it's signed and they put down their deposit for services. So the first one, prospect engages with me in the email. So when I receive an email introducing me to someone, I obviously want the person that, is a prospect or a lead to talk to me. If they don't talk to me, bad things happen. If I'm gonna email them and be like, hey, it's great to meet you. It'd be really great to, and if I think it's a decent prospect, I'll say, it'd be really great to hop on a call with you, for 15, 25 minutes and just hear about, what you're up to, what you're working on, what your challenges are. If I don't think it's such a great prospect, what I'll do is I'll just say, hey, it's nice to meet you. I'm just really curious about what you're working on. Maybe send me a couple lines about what it is that you're, what kind of challenges that you're facing. So If I think it's valuable, I take it to a meeting. If I'm not really sure, I leave it in email and then hope to be pleasantly surprised so I'm not wasting time. Second key behavior, prospect agrees to schedule a meeting. Okay, cool. So prospect agrees to schedule a meeting. We put it on the calendar. It's set. That can be virtual. It can be a phone call. It can be Zoom. It can be in person, whatever. Third, prospect shows up to the meeting. If prospect doesn't show up to the meeting, then they either, better have a really good excuse, or I just totally got it wrong, in the sense that, I'm scheduling meetings with a prospect or a lead that is going to waste my time as a salesperson by rescheduling. So I'm trying to pre-qualify this person, make them more interested, make them committed before I get them into that meeting. Okay, so they show up to the meeting. We're assuming things go well. Prospect shares genuine pain points that fit with the solution I can offer. If I have a meeting with that prospect and this does not happen, they do not share those genuine pain points, then, and I don't have a solution for it, and it's not something that's actionable, then, the process kind of stops there in terms of, getting to an endpoint, because I'm not going to sign a 3-month, contract with somebody that I can't help, right? Like, I don't make bad deals. Sometimes I make bad deals, but like I strive to not make bad deals, because the more bad deals that you make, if it's a bad fit, that kind of a thing, you're not going to have a lot of referrals. You're not going to have a lot of customer success. Okay. Next behavior, prospect verbally shows genuine interest in my proposed solution. So I've proposed a solution to their pain points, and, I think it's viable. Prospect verbally shows genuine interest in my proposed solution. This is where a lot of salespeople get thrown off, because people say, yeah, that's great, I want to do that, and then they never hear from them again. So when I say genuine interest, we have to have ways of figuring out if they actually mean what they say. This is a CRM workshop. This is not a how to close customers workshop. So I'm not going to go into that too much. Optional, prospect clears the solution with their team. So if they have other stakeholders that need to know more about what's going on, then and agree to it, that needs to happen. Sometimes it doesn't need to happen. Okay, prospect signs the consulting contract, and prospect sends payment, because I do not start without a deposit and a signed contract. Cool. So these are my key behaviors for this situation, with this starting point and this end point. Does anybody have any questions about this? Concerns, comments?
You record each one of those in your CRM separately under client file sort of view?
Yeah, that will be in the next slide. Absolutely. It's a good question. I mean, it's like we're on the same page, Redden. You're kind of like, yeah, you're up in my brain. You're asking the questions that I'm going to talk about. So I think absolutely. So what am I tracking? The last time the prospect sent me an email, if ever, okay, is a meeting scheduled? I want to know that. How'd the meeting go? What were the pain points? What solution did I offer? This is particularly important if you have more than one person on your team. What was the response to the solution that I proposed? Did they have objections? Did I manage them well? How did I manage them? Do they want to buy? Do they have anything they need to do before signing a contract? Like, do they need to go talk to their team? Do they need to, or do we need to go talk to their team, would be a better way of putting it, because I don't like having a prospect who needs to go and chat with their team without my involvement. If they refuse to let me, in on those conversations, I respect that, but at the same time, I try and avoid that as much as possible, because it's so easy for my proposed solution to get lost in translation. You know, this is a in the B2C world, selling cars, like, you know, Jeffrey, who's in auto sales, you know, this is, I would imagine this is, you know, I have to go talk to my spouse about this. You know, how do you manage that? What do you do? Do you get their approval? Okay, so how confident am I, percentage that they'll close? This is a bit of a, let's say, controversial metric. It's very subjective. You need a little bit of experience to be accurate with it. A lot of people, when I'm first coaching them in sales, will say, I say, how confident are you that they'll close, that they'll sign the deal? And they're like 99%. And, you know, I assess the situation and I'm like, nah, it's like a 25%. There's you know, because people will be like, oh, they told me they like it, and that they're going to follow up with me in a month after they talk to their boss and a couple of their team members. And you know, and in that email, I'm 95% sure that they're going to send me, you know, a yes, and we're going to sign a contract. I'm like, oh no, that's a bad situation to be in. You don't want to be in that situation. Other things I'm tracking: tasks to move the deal forward. Okay, is there anything that needs to get done? Do I need to go and do a presentation to their boss? Ideally, we've already talked, like, ideally the prospect is the decision maker. Not always possible, but we want to be talking to them. Do I need to, you know, talk to the team and manage objections? And the end result, you know, did I close them? Were they lost? Did I win the deal? How much time did that take? And so, Javin, here we're coming back to the sales cycle, you know, kind of question. I'm just curious, real quick, Javin, what is it that you're kind of, can you expand on your question about variation in sales cycle a little bit? I'll give Javin a minute to, oh,
yeah,
there he
sorry.
is.
Hey, yeah, I guess I'm mostly interested in, yeah, like for much longer sales cycles.
How long are we talking?
Like a year, 2 years.
Okay.
I don't know. Like how granular, I guess, you can be with all this compared to shorter sales cycles, I guess, and how it changes, like the point that you need to get to before a CRM is worth it over just tracking in Excel, or whatever. I guess,
So with
you
the
know,
longer sales cycle, sorry, go ahead.
You know, I guess that, you know, obviously when you're dealing with longer sales cycles, you probably need more leads in the pipeline. But yeah, I don't know. I guess just generally, if you could speak to that.
I think the longer the sales cycle in general, the more I'm going to say have a CRM, because we want a persistent data source where we can, you know, track certain things over that year or 2 years. That's a pretty long sales cycle. You know, I've dealt with sales cycles. Like my longest average sales cycle was about between 6 and 8 months. However, I had outliers that, you know, took up to 20 months to close. One of the things that I would recommend paying attention to with regards to that is budget cycles. So, like, when are these people poised to buy? You know, so if you have a sales cycle that's like 1 to 2 years, I gotta assume that, you know, their budget cycle is important.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
yeah, and so a lot of the communications that I'm going to have with somebody that, you know, is going to take 1 to 2 years to buy is about keeping them interested and feeding them little tidbits of information that will just keep me at the back of their mind every few months. You know, so it's really easy to forget to follow up with someone, if it's now in 2 months is the next time I want to follow up with them. If you're doing that through a spreadsheet, for me, that would be difficult, I suppose. The other thing, I'm going to talk about this in a second too, is we can actually use this data to shorten sales cycles, which is really nice. So the value of the deal and how long it took them to pay, it takes somebody like 3 months to get a check to you, you're doing something wrong, or you might want to have like another payment method. And I say check, and some of you might be like going like, whoa, like who uses checks anymore? But there's still big organizations that be like, can I send you a check? Okay. Quarterly data analysis. So this is what I'm looking at every 3 months, or you can do it every 2 months or a month. It doesn't really matter. Depends again on your sales cycle. Jabbing for a 1 to 2 year sales cycle, this is going to be hard. This might be like every 6 months. So for emails, did the exchange result in, from my example, where the start point is a referral and the end point is a contract, a 3-month contract, for each of those instances, did the exchange result in a meeting? Why or why not? Number of emails, heads up, 10 minutes left, another booking in the boardroom at 1. Okay, I will wrap up. Emails, number of emails it took to get a meeting. Did I have to send like 20 emails to this person just to get them in a meeting? What happened after that? Like, did the person even buy? Was it worth it? Or am I just wasting time? How long it took them to go from a first email to a scheduled meeting? So amount of time as well. If my sales cycle is 2 months, let's say, for this kind of deal, like if they're taking 3 months to schedule a meeting, then something's off about that. Something's wrong. So for the meeting point, did the meeting result in a soft commitment? In sales, we largely don't care about soft commitments because there's the hard asses who will say like, okay, did you get the signature and did you get the money? Until you get that, it's not done, and even then, it's not done. Sometimes people can cancel on you, So, but I like to still pay attention to this. I don't base all of my, I don't consider this to be an extremely meaningful metric. But I do want to know if the meeting resulted in a genuine soft commitment verbally, or if it didn't. Did they reschedule multiple times? Have I picked a bad prospect? Is it not working? Do they keep pushing it out? Did prospects just flat out forget about any meetings? Okay, if I have prospects that are forgetting to show up to these meetings, I'm doing something majorly wrong. If I lost a prospect at this point, how many did I lose and for what reasons? So again, this is a little bit like the sales funnel in the sense that if people aren't going from step to step and I'm losing a lot of people at one step, why and what can I do about it? Did I schedule any meetings with unqualified prospects, beating a dead horse at this point? Okay, closed deals. How many soft closes went to hard closes? This is if a soft close did not go to a hard close and there wasn't a really good reason for it, then I misgauged the soft close. Soft close being a verbal commitment, hard close being signatures and payment. So how long did it take on average from start to finish? So this is my overall sales cycle length. From that first email referral to signature and payment. How long does it take? If it's taking longer, what am I doing wrong? How can I shorten that? I can go back to that pipeline or funnel and look at it at each step and say, okay, this is the bottleneck right here. I need to do something to improve that. How many deals did I lose and why? For my deals that were below 90% confidence that actually came through, what did I get wrong? Why did I call that wrong? And the same thing for the ones that were above 90% confidence that I lost. What did I get wrong? Then the average value and length of closed won deals. Misc items. How many referrals am I getting and from whom? So who isn't evangelizing, doing customer referrals for me, and why not? Why or why not? That's my model. So if people aren't evangelizing for me, then I need to revisit my service structure. Do I have any outliers in terms of my normal sales cycle, and why? So if my process is 2 to 3 months and somebody closes after a year, then that's an outlier. And why is that happening? And how can I reduce that in the future? How many times did I miss something obvious in this whole process? So how many times did I just flat out forget something, or I'm looking at this data in the quarter analysis and I see, oh my, I missed something big there. What can I do to reduce that? What are the major reconsiderations I have to make? And so why does this matter? Again, it comes down to connecting to reality. If you're not interested in CRM, that's fine. I would say that if you want to do well in sales, you have to be a little bit data oriented. Pick the minimum stuff that's going to be interesting to you and your team and is not going to waste your time. So team best practices, agree on and standardize what the minimum level of trackable information is. If you're a sales manager, be okay with other reps coloring outside the lines as long as performance is still there. If you're a sales manager, be consistent and fair. Document problems, implement coaching, consult with HR for performance improvement plans if needed. And honestly, if it's not working out, then just terminate the rep. Sell your team on CRM. Salespeople are stubborn. That's okay. That's part of what makes them good at sales. So in any case, you have to sell them in the sense of you have to get their buy-in. So we've got, sorry I didn't get to account management, customer success, picking a CRM. Honestly, just go sign up at the link and I'll send the slides and we can have a conversation. I don't know. Do we have 2 minutes for questions? 3 minutes. We have 3 minutes for questions. If anyone wants to shoot that up, put it in the chat, unmute your microphone, whatever. Hey, Adam. Oh, made a mistake here. Yeah. Okay, so there's the link. Please go sign up. If there's something that you want to discuss further, just give me a call, text me. My information is there. Shoot me an email. Sign up at that link. I'll be in touch with you. I'm happy to just grab a cup of coffee with you or do that virtually. I guess and we're in COVID times now, or sit down with you at Startup Zone or whatever, and just chat about this stuff. It's not something that they're going to charge you for or anything to have a conversation about this. So if you want to sit down for 15 minutes, half an hour, or just have a quick chat about this, I'm happy to go into one-on-ones. Otherwise, thank you so much for attending, everybody. I know I didn't get to everything and I didn't get to answer everyone's questions. I'll review the transcript, but please also, just please feel free to follow up with me as well. I think that would be great. Okay. Thanks very much. And Startup Zone, anything you folks want to add? Okay, great to have you all, and happy selling.